Hello, all you beautiful, amazing, spectacular tea people. 1 second. I am just getting the Instagram set up here. All right, there we go. So, all right, here we go. So, hello, all you wonderful, amazing, spectacular tea people. This is Facebook and Instagram and YouTube. So, three of those things are all going on at once thanks to StreamYard. I did a live stream the other day about some cold brew teas, and I was like, it's not all that good, so I deleted it. And there was a very nice person who said, where'd the live stream go? I wanted to get some tips about how to brew your tea so that, like a cold brew, so brew your tea as a cold brew, so that you're not going to be getting as much caffeine in your tea. So I thought, you know what? Let's do a live stream today. I'm like, people actually watch these things, which is sometimes it's like, really? I've been absolutely amazed, spectacularly amazed, and wonderfully happy. I've stepped back a little bit to enjoy life with my family this summer. Haven't been doing too much content online, and the orders are still coming in more than they have in the past. So thank you. Hello from Taipei. Well, I hope that well, are you tourist? Q-tat? Sorry, I'm not gonna know how to pronounce that one. But are you a tourist? Because if you're a tourist in Taipei right now, it kind of sucks because I think they shut everything down, didn't they? Here in Hualien, it's just kind of a cloudy day. But there's a typhoon. If you're interested in weather and those types of things, you should check it out. There's a typhoon just north of Taiwan that is doing something really weird. It's doing something really, really strange. And it's just sort of there. It's going to be there for the next 48 hours. Just gone up to, like, here's Taiwan, just gone up here, and then is doing this, and then going off that way. All shut down, yes. Here for music festival, all shut down. Music festival, really? What music festival? I'm curious. As you can tell, I'm not very cultured. Every once in a while, there'll be something that happens in Taipei, and I'm like, oh, I should take my kids there, and then I'm like, I'll just take them to the river instead. We'll go drink some tea. So what we're going to cover today is I'm going to do a deep dive into caffeine. We're going to talk about caffeine and how to brew your teas so that if you're sensitive to caffeine, you can still get the positive aspects of the tea, but to diminish the caffeine. I'm going off of memory for a lot of these things, but I might say some statistics which might be out of date, but you can sort of get the idea. And as I talk about these things, you definitely understand. Taipei Music Academy and Festival. Yeah, Wisteria is going to be shut down for sure. Wisteria is a wonderful place. If you ever make the Taipei, go to Wisteria. But they'd be shut down today. they'd be shut down for sure. TNUA. I don't even know what that is. Taipei Music Academy and Festival. Okay, well, maybe I'll look it up. If it's, I don't know, should I get into all my insecurities about being a father and raising my children in a place where the trade-off is we never lock our doors to the car but we also don't have very much sort of international culture, so there's like this weird mix between the two. But yes, I probably should get them up. Anyways, we won't go into my insecurities about being a father here in this beautiful, idyllic, small little town. Sorry, I need a little cup to drink my tea out of. So what I've got today, what I've got in front of me, this is some mystery tea from the Jade Mountain Man, who is a wonderful friend, an amazing person, and he's just awesome. Like, he's just awesome. And so I'm going to be doing this. I took out all of the cold brew teas, so we'll do some of that again. But basically what we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about caffeine. And we're going to talk about caffeine in the context of having these various different ways of brewing your tea. Now, when you're looking at tea, let's just start with the caffeine. I'll give you the first spiel about caffeine. Ironically, tea per weight has much, 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 much more caffeine than coffee does. Much more. So per weight, like a tea leaf is about between, well, it varies greatly. We'll talk about that in a minute. But between, let's just say 2.5 to 3.5% of the actual weight of a tea leaf is caffeine. All right, just to give you an idea, that's a lot of caffeine. And remember, what is caffeine? Caffeine is the defense mechanism of the plant to get rid of, to scare away as many bugs as possible. So the bugs, they come to the plant, they start eating the plant, and then they start eating the plant. Then the tea leaf, there's the honey fragrance, will actually excrete some heavily caffeinated substances. And then the bugs get all like stressed out and paranoid, jittery, and then they fly away to the next tea plant or tea bush or plant, depending on, I guess, on the bug. So when we drink it, we're getting that same sort of thing, but because we're much, much larger, we're getting it in a much different way. So when we're getting the caffeine, and again, everybody's different, but if you're super susceptible to caffeine, you are going to be getting jittery. You're not going to be able to sleep. You're going to be able to, it's going to be quite unpleasant for you. Some people get palpitations and all these different types of things. If you are like the vast majority of people, it's going to get you energized, and it's going to get you, you're going to enjoy it. It's going to be a drug that you're going to be like, wow, look at all the work I can get done, type of thing. It'll wake you up and all those different types of things. And it can make you pretty happy as well. But here's the problem. When you're drinking the tea, you have to know your own body. And if you know your own body and you sort of test it out, you do various things with the tea, then you can start saying, okay, I want X amount of tea, X amount of caffeine, and I want to be able to control it. Now with coffee, it's much, much, much easier. So when you got something like coffee, you say, I want an espresso. You're going to get the variation in that espresso. The caffeine content is not going to be huge, right? It's going to be quite small, actually. The variation depends on the bean, depends on the roast, all of those different things, of course. But the variation is going to be smaller. Whereas with the tea, the amount of caffeine that you're going to get in your brew is going to be much smaller, but the variation is going to be much, much larger. Now, there's also this thing, I won't get into it and talk about how crazy it is, all these various different ways of describing it. There's the tea versus theine argument, controversy. Some people say that they're the exact same thing. Some people say that theine is just caffeine, except they labeled it wrongly. I think in general, what people generally say about the caffeine and theine thing is that they sort of mix together, and what it creates is a time release of the caffeine in your body. So for example, there's lots of people that will say, I can drink coffee at 4 o'clock and still sleep at night. But if I drink tea at 4 o'clock, I can't sleep at night. And that's because there is sort of the coffee spike. Everybody knows the coffee spike. You drink a cup of coffee, right? It wakes you up and gives you some energy. Then you go right back down. And you're like, okay, yeah. If you're addicted to coffee, what's going to happen? Well, you're going to be on your third cup of coffee at 11:30 a.m. on an empty stomach. And it's just going to feel like you are, pouring black tar into the pit of your very uncomfortable stomach. So we've all been there. We know what that is. Well, not all of us, but you know what I mean? If you're addicted to coffee, you've been there. Tea is different. Now, we're going to go into the tea. We're going to go into this, and we're going to see about these various things. Now, remember, the most important thing to remember about caffeine and tea is, let's just say 3% by weight caffeine. 3%, which is massive. That's number one. Number two, caffeine is very hot water soluble, or soluble in hot water. There's number two. So when you've got these two together, you'll be able to control the amount of the caffeine that's being released in your teas a lot easier. Okay, so here we go. I'll give you a quick example. Again, this is so hard to test. Okay, so hard to test. So right now, I'm giving you, I've read this, I've read studies, I've read articles, I've read all these things. Obviously, it's part of what I do. So I have to know this stuff. But when I'm giving you percentages right now, it's completely like, just take it with a grain of salt, right? I'm not claiming that I know 100%. When you're looking at caffeine and how much caffeine gets into what you're drinking, you're looking at the amount of leaf and how hot and how long the water is. So for example, I've got these boiling water, 3 grams of tea, 150 milliliters of water, and I'm just letting it sit there. When I drink this tea, there is going to be a lot of caffeine, a lot of caffeine. This right here is 600 milliliters of water with cold brew tea. So I literally put 2.5 grams, 3 grams of tea in the top, closed it up, put it in the fridge. It's been about 48 hours. So which is going to have more caffeine? Right now, at this point, if I was to measure them and knowing myself, knowing my body and things like that, after about 48 hours sitting in there, my guess is these two would be almost exactly the same amount of caffeine. Almost the same amount of caffeine, right? So that's what I'm going to say, right? That's what I'm going to claim. Now, you'd have to do the study and blah, 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 blah. But those are the two poles. So you do boiling water, you put the tea in there, like this is tea espresso, right? And this is how I test the teas. If you've watched these lives before, you know what I mean. But this is a tea espresso. It's like so much caffeine in there. This has been sitting like this in a cold fridge for 48 hours or more, I think 72 hours. My guess is they're about the same. So what do you do? How do you want to control your caffeine intake and still get the positive flavors out of your teas, right? I'm only addicted to oolong teas from Mountain Stream Teas. Well, well, there you go. You're going to be addicted to something, they're generally speaking agrochemical free, so that's okay. I am addicted to 1 cup of coffee in the morning, though. And then I can't drink it for the rest of the day. But let's go into this. You want to control your caffeine intake. Well, there's a couple things you can do. One, you can cold brew your tea. If you cold brew your tea, you are going to definitely be able to get more control over the amount of caffeine that's in your tea intake, just because it's going to release so much slower, so much slower, right? So much slower. It's going to release so much slower. Now, here is one of the things to remember about the tea. Remember, the most important thing, 3% of a dried tea leaf is caffeine. That's a lot. And 2, hot water brings it out faster. So what you could do, for example, if you just want to get the flavor of tea, you want to get a little bit of caffeine, but not too much, what you can do is you can do this to the tea. And you can pour it out, throw it away, give it to somebody who likes caffeine, and then start again. Now, because caffeine is generally speaking so water soluble, now we'll get into how you can tell how much is in it in a minute. What you can do if you want to really control the amount of caffeine that is in your drink, in what you brew, then what you want to do is have super hot water, steep it for, you can experiment yourself. We'll get into that in a minute. You experiment with yourself. You steep it really hot for, say, anywhere from 30 seconds to a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. It's up to you. Then you pour that away. And then you just keep going as normal. Now, what's that going to do? One of the things about caffeine is it's extremely bitter. Caffeine is really, really, really bitter. Oftentimes, that's not the only thing. There's a lot of things that can make your tea bitter. But oftentimes, a really bitter brew is because the caffeine is being released too fast and it's in a too high concentration, and there's not other stuff going on. You oftentimes get that with a low quality tea because oftentimes, too, bitterness comes from the leaves that are further down the plant. There's some things that happen with the with the brewing process, sort of with the processing, that are going to give you really, really bitter flavors coming out of that. But that's what it is. Another example would be when you cold brew teas, the bitterness in the tea is basically not going to show up until right now, which is about 48 hours later. So what was this one? This is the Three Shades of Baoshan. It's actually, after 48 hours of brewing, it's actually kind of bitter. So it's been in 72 hours. Let's go for 72 hours. It's about 72 hours. So it's been in there for 72 hours or more. I can't remember exactly when I put it in. And so now it's kind of bitter. But when I tried it first, after that was about 12 to 16 hours in there, it was so beautiful, fruity, sweet, subtle, all those things going on in there. Right now, the sweet things are in the background. The aftertaste is beautiful, but the upfront is a little bit bitter. It is. It's a little bit bitter. This is the Snow Jade. Let's see what happens with the Snow Jade here. So, right, same idea when I tried this the other day. It's strong, and the upfront has some bitterness, but then this is beautiful. This is actually in the subscription box, so you can try this out this month. Cold brew. It's gorgeous. Gorgeous. Super interesting tea. Yeah, the Baoshan is a super interesting tea. It's one of my favorites, actually, just in the sense of interestingness. You know, a Chinese cultivar produced with a Taiwanese soul, you know, like that. It's just beautiful. I quite enjoy it. I'm cold brewing the pomelo tea, and it's so good. Absolutely. I would have 100% put in the pomelo tea. I would have 100% put it in if I had enough, but it's long sold out, or not long sold out. Sold out about maybe a month ago. My buddy, anyways, it's complicated, but my buddy made some more, so I'm going to go see him. I'll probably see him in the next couple of weeks. I might actually be able to get some more pomelo. But yes, absolutely, the pomelo would be beautiful, because remember, when you're using hot water to brew the teas, a lot of the really high sort of flavor notes, they get burnt out, right? That's why you want to use sort of lower temperatures for really high note teas, greens and sort of floral teas and things like that. So if you brew it with cold brew, boom, just absolutely amazing. Reminds me of a white process Dankong Shui Shan I had. I bet you it would be very, very similar to that. I think the Chinese versions of creating white teas also do that. Like, think about the Midnight White from Yunnan. They oftentimes manipulate the leaves a little bit. It's not. They cheat a little bit. I'm going back to the snow pick here. More pomelo. Yes, well, we'll see what happens. I'll see if I can get some more pomelo. And I'll probably have some fresh gardenia back again soon. I love the pomelo cold brewed. Yes, it works so well. Now, let's just jump back into the caffeine stuff. Now, anybody out there have any questions about the caffeine stuff, then let me know. Please, let's talk about it, because it is one of those things that, you know, obviously you might be able to tell it's one of my pet peeves when somebody says something idiotic like white tea has no caffeine, or green tea has less caffeine, or if you cold brew a tea, then you will get no caffeine at all, or whatever stupid thing people say. It is, tea is 3% by dry weight caffeine, which is a massive amount, right? A massive amount. And the harder the water you use, the longer you use it, the more caffeine is going to be extricated quite quickly. Right? So with that in mind, you can really see how these things work, right? And you can see for your own self, you can try and create your own brewing process and your own way of doing things that is not going to give you the reaction that you might not want, right? Because everybody is completely different. Now, for me, I am, or I guess I should say, extremely caffeine intolerant, right? So I'd have a coffee in the morning. If I had a coffee past noon, I couldn't sleep at night. Same with tea. I was extremely caffeine intolerant. thankfully you can build up tolerance. You can build up tolerance to caffeine. So now, about 4 o'clock, 4:30 is my break. So anything after 4, I'm screwed. Anything before 4, I was like, it's okay. It's okay. You know what? It's okay. It's no problem. And any questions about the caffeine, just throw that in for sure. Now let's look at these 2 teas. Now I got these 2 teas in, and if you've watched my lives before, I've done a bunch of different things about being able to tell what season a tea is from by the length of the leaves. So springtime tea, short, stubby, thick, and then this part is like beautiful and soft. That's why the springtime teas oftentimes have both different kinds. Wintertime tea, cold weather, short, stocky, thick. Springtime tea, so sort of like this, right? Springtime tea is like this, up, and then sort of in between. It's not super stocky, it's not super light, but it grows up fast. The stalk is quite high, right? So those are the 3 different kinds, right? Snow pig teas are like these. They're like, Joe Pesci, Al Pacino, short, stocky guys. I'm trying to think of the guy now who's still still does the TV shows. Anyways, whatever, doesn't matter. So grateful I'm the lucky ones that I can drink tea all day. Yes, well there you go. You are enjoying you're in Taiwan, so you're enjoying what it means to have a typhoon day, which in general and generally speaking, as these things go, it's not that bad. As long as the power stays on, it's actually a pretty pleasant way to spend your day. It's actually okay. I have very, very many pleasant memories of typhoon days with my wife over the years. With the kids, not so much. But it's okay. It's okay. It's like, okay, you can have screens, sort of a thing, because you can't go outside. What I have in front of me are 2 different teas that were sent to me by my friends up on Pear Mountain. And they're just numbers, right? 1121 1300. 1122 1300. I have no idea what this means. Right? No idea. Right? No idea what this means. And so my guess is these are fall teas. My guess is these are early fall teas. My guess is these were picked just recently, like relatively fresh fall teas. But he didn't tell me anything. He didn't tell me anything about these teas at all. Now, why I think they are sort of like fall teas from right now. There's a strength, there's a heat, beautiful fruity aftertaste, and look at the stems, right? Look at the stems. So when you're looking at these stems, that looks like a fall time tea to me, because the size of the stem is pretty much similar the whole way through. It's pretty hard. There's a consistency, right, to the size of the stems here. You can see, the leaves have fallen off those stems, but you can sort of see. So my guess is this is like a recently picked fall time tea. Maybe he stored them really well and they're actually from last year. But I'm testing them out and they're actually pretty good. I'm hoping I can go up and see them this wintertime or this fall. And out of these 2 teas, this one is way, way better. Although they're both pretty good. Yeah, I got to ask him what these teas are all about, because they're really nice. But because of the way I brewed them, they're pretty bitter. Gonna drink tea all day with the boys. Well, yes. And that's, it's if you're trapped up in Taipei on a typhoon day with your friends, absolutely go out and get out in the rain, try and splash yourself, because it's quite a lot of fun to get out in the rain, especially if it's windy. Obviously within safety standards and all that sort of stuff. But one of the funnest things to do is you go out and then you go to the 7-Eleven, you buy, a beverage or like a junk food or something like that. Then you go back and you just watch a movie or something like that. For me, I've actually found that I'm quite susceptible to weather that is low low pressure. And this is fascinating, right? Because when the typhoons roll through, the pressure in the air goes way down. And so I find that I'm actually able to just pass out and go to sleep. so I sleep so well because when the pressure goes low, everything's sort of muted. The colors are muted. It's like it's windy, it's rainy out. Everything's muted, and I'm just like, I'm gonna have a nap. I wake up at 8 p.m. have something to eat. Oh, I'm gonna go back to sleep. It's very, very restful for me in the typhoon days and typhoons in general. Extremely restful. Now this tea right here is gorgeous. It is a beautiful tea. The aftertaste of it and everything, it's just beautiful. And I'm wondering if it's, I hope it's a fresh fall tea. Because if it is, or a summer tea, I got to ask what it is. Because it's pretty neat. It's a neat tea. The aftertaste is extremely strong and extremely beautiful. I might actually get it. This one, not so much. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just doesn't have the strength of this one. But I can't remember which bag it came from. I'll have to brew them again. That's okay. That's okay. But I think that's about it for today. Again, thank you everybody so much who's bought tea over the summertime. I really, really, really appreciate it. It's amazing. Everybody who has ordered tea, your teas are packed up and ready to go. Even the person who ordered tea like about half an hour ago. So I'm in the shop, got it all together. It's going to be going to the post office in about 20 minutes, 25 minutes or so. And yeah, so thank you for that. Just to recap on what we covered today, the caffeine brewing thing. One, you got to listen to your body, right? That's for sure. Everybody's different. But remember, tea itself is got a lot of caffeine, but it gets extracted with hot water over long periods of time. So if you want less caffeine and more sort of the flavory type of stuff, you can brew with lower water, shorter periods of time. You can also do cold brews. Right? You can do cold brews. And you're going to have to experiment with yourself, right? So if you are really sensitive, for example, you can do this, brew it hot, pour it away, then stick it in a water bottle and drink it and have it like this, stick it in the fridge overnight. And then that's going to give you basically the best of both worlds, right? Just going to give you the best of both worlds to do that. And thank you for tea. Well, you're welcome, and thank you for the support. Any other questions before we sign off? So any other questions about the stuff today? I still haven't decided if I'm going to start doing more stuff on the Instagram and whatnot. I've got a lot of content that I might stick through some AI programs and see if I can recycle some of that content because so good. What's that one? The Jade Mountain. Oh, that's a dark flower. This is also in the subscription box this month. Oh, so good. It's 4 Seasons Oolong. That's crazy. It's so good. It's so good. Yeah, hopefully I'm going to be up on the mountain pretty soon. I have one free day debating whether to go to Inga or Malcolm, but leaning towards Inga. Inga is, I would say Malcolm. I've never actually been to Inga, mostly because it's sort of like a bazaar. When I say bazaar, I don't mean that in a relatively positive way. So you want to go and try and get some really high quality tea ware or tea stuff. It's all piled together. The good stuff is wildly expensive. The cheap stuff is just everywhere. Like it's just like everywhere. And then if you want to find something in the middle, it's almost impossible because you can't really tell what's authentic or not. And so it's a tough one. Inga is a tough one. You might be disappointed. That being said, if you just want to get overwhelmed by teaware, if you just want to be like, I want to look at the most expensive stuff, I want to look at the cheapest stuff, I want to look at everything in between, I want to be able to tell whether I know the difference, then Inga is the place to go. Malkong is a tourist trap, but it's easy to get off the tourist trap. Like it's easy to get off the beaten path. So for example, if you got yourself an electric bicycle, you can get in touch with me. I can send you a couple Google Dots of places that are close to they're worthwhile to visit. And they are like real authentic tea houses, tea farms, tea gardens with a tea house attached to it. And they're not that far from the top of Malkong. You can get to them really, really, really easily. It's a tiny area. And going up on the cable cars is a lot of fun. So if I was going to choose between those two, that's what I'd say. But it depends on your own personal preferences and your own personal desires for your trip to the beautiful island of Taiwan. So if you want to really push yourself in the sense of understanding teaware, or if you want to buy some in the future or whatever it is, then Inga is the place to go. If you want sort of tea and what it looks like to be around real sort of organic tea gardens, then for sure Malkong is much better to go. But Malkong is a tourist trap, so you have to leave the area. But it's not that hard to leave the area, right? Because in general, tourists, and especially Asian tourists, don't like to walk very far. So if you're able to walk for a little bit longer, you're going to be fine, right? The best would be to get a bicycle or an electric scooter. And again, I'll throw it out there if you want a couple places to visit. Then just send me a message, and I can give you a couple of Google Docs of really good organic farms to visit that are close to the center of the Malkong, the beating heart of the Malkong tourist beast. Yeah. Any other questions? I am gonna post the last postal thing on the last set of tea, and then I'm gonna go to the post office and send all that stuff out. So thanks for watching. Any questions about any of this stuff, just let me know. Remember, this is on Facebook and YouTube and Instagram. So if you want to listen to it with more flexibility than Instagram offers, then you can go to those places as well. Thanks for watching, and I certainly hope you enjoy your time up in Taipei. Wherever you are in the world, have an absolutely wonderful morning, evening, night, all of that stuff. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next live stream.